there, it's Friday's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher, and Debbie Georgiani is off today, so it's going to be you and me talking about something that I think is it's very near and dear to my heart, and I hope and pray that it is to your heart as well, and I hope that we hear a lot of great testimonies about how we can get involved and help other people when they are in need. I titled the show, kind of ... and you visited me, because remember in Matthew 25, Jesus talks about, I was sick and you tended to me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was in prison and you visited me. And that's where he separates the sheep and the goats. You know, the sheep are the ones who served him in the persons of other human beings, and the goats are the ones who did not do Jesus' will, did not serve him. And so it's a real rich reminder to us that we are not alone in this life. That's obvious, of course, but also that other people may not have the same level of resources that we do. So I want to ask you this question today. Are you involved, or have you been involved in some kind of a ministry to the poor, to the sick, to those in prison? If you have, call and share your experience, because as always on this program, all the listeners learn from you. I will learn from you. Others will learn from you. And you will be able to share with the world how you have been blessed as well by being involved in some type of a ministry. Maybe you visit the sick on a regular basis. Perhaps you go to see those in prison. You have a prison ministry of some kind. Maybe you work for, Meals on Wheels or something, taking meals to those who are maybe homebound and can't get out and get their own meals. Perhaps you call on just a family member or a friend on your own. Maybe you've got someone who is bedridden, perhaps, or homebound, and you just take it upon yourself to go visit him or her. That would be inspiring to hear about as well. Maybe you volunteer at a local food bank. Perhaps, like me, you are a volunteer assistant at a hospital. I help out Father Donald Craig at Eisenhower Health Center in the area where I live, and so once a week or so, I go in and I visit about 15 to 20 Catholic patients, depending on how many of the volunteers are there that day. And I take communion to those who want it. Some receive it. Some refuse communion because they haven't been to confession, or they just simply don't want it. I mean, you run into all kinds of situations in a ministry like that. So this is where we're going with this today. And I really need you to call in and you be the experts. You be the guests on this program. The number is 833 288 EWTN, 833-288-3986. What about your family? Do you gather the kids and sit down and say, all right, it's the holiday time. Let's do something for some less fortunate people. Maybe your family has a tradition of doing something like that. That would be awesome to hear about that, because that could give some great ideas to a lot of other parents and younger people who are listening right now. So 833-288-3986. We're talking today, and you visited me. How do you go about fulfilling that mandate from Jesus to be Christ to other people? And as is often said, we are sometimes the only Jesus or the only Christ or the only Bible some people will ever see or read or experience, and that is the example of our lives. So let's talk about this at 833-288-3986. This is especially important, I think, this time of year. Family members, sometimes you've got a family member, a loved one in the hospital. It could be really rough for them not being with the family. Maybe distance separates you. Maybe you've got some homeless people on the street in your town, and you just like to take them some food or some water, or just go and visit with them for a while. 833-288-3986. And of course, it's been my experience, and probably yours as well, that I get as much or more out of the ministry that I do than the people to whom I minister, I believe. It's so humbling, actually. It's humbling for me, for example, to go to the hospital every week and to knock on those doors and to go in, and I never know what kind of a circumstance or situation I'm going to be experiencing. I have been in ICU. I have been at the bedside of dying people who knew they were dying. I've visited with people who were, I once visited a fourth-degree Knight of Columbus. That was really exciting because he was so enthusiastic about getting the sacrament. And I visited people who themselves are extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. And then, like I say, I visited others who, for whatever reason, they understand that they need to be properly disposed for the sacrament. And so they just say, well, I'd like to have a prayer, and that'll be fine. And I've had others just say, no, thank you to the entire menu. So you never know what you're going to run into. But what has been your experience about this? Tell us what God has done in your life as a result of your involvement with visiting the sick, those in prison, those who are homebound, clothing the naked. Maybe you work at a food bank, or maybe you get involved at a thrift store or something that practically gives clothing away. How has the Lord worked in the lives of those you have served? And when you call in today, you're really kind of issuing an invitation to the rest of the Take Two family to join you in serving those who are in need. And again, this whole show topic came up from Matthew 25, starting around verse 31. You know the passage well. When the Son of Man comes in all of his glory and the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. And it goes on. And then in verse 34, then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. So right there, just in that one passage, Jesus gives us about a half a dozen ways that he really expects us to help meet the needs of those who cannot meet those needs for themselves. So please do feel free to participate in this, what is going to be, I think, a very, very inspiring conversation. We've got about half the lines are full, so still some others are open for you right now. If you'd like to get on board, 833-288-3986. I had, when I was a seminarian, I did a summer of what's called CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education, in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And it was absolutely life-changing for me. I wish there was going to be time on the show today. It looks from the calls like there is not going to be. But I would tell the story, the amazing story about how I baptized a 21-year-old young man the day he died. It was absolute, and the way he died, it was absolutely amazing. I've got to tell that on the program sometime. I've teased that several times in the past, but really it's your show. So we want your calls. We'll take your takes on this topic of what you do to be involved in helping to meet the material and spiritual needs of those in need. 833-288-3986. I'm Jerry Usher.
And I'm Debbie Georgianni. We want to tell you about the Inspired by Faith Book Club.
Join us as we gather together and read a featured inspirational book each month and engage in meaningful discussions together.
Want to participate? The details are simple and can be found at jerryanddebbie.com by clicking on the Book Club tab.
Invite your friends and let's spend some quality time in fellowship with the Inspired by Faith Book Club at jerryanddebbie.com.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, inviting you to join me next time when our guest author is Abby Reese, the book dedicated to God, an oral history of cloistered nuns.
There are people today who don't need to be known, who don't need to be seen. Their whole life is withdrawing like Jesus into the wilderness.
That's Abby Reese next time on Bookmark.
EWTN Bookmark with Doug Keck brings you the best Catholic authors, Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is Dr. David Anders, host of Called to Communion. Advent is a season when we anticipate, look forward to, and prepare ourselves for the coming of the Lord Jesus, the birth of Christ. In tradition, Advent is a time of penance. It's a time to deny ourselves and mortify our flesh as we prepare ourselves for the coming of our Lord. In our culture, a lot of times people think it's time to put the tree up, start the holiday parties. That's all wonderful. I mean, got nothing against holiday parties. So when you're thinking about your holiday parties, think also about preparing your heart.
Show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Just Jerry here today. Debbie is taking care of another commitment that she has, and I just want to remind you, you probably assumed this already, but just to make sure that you know, EWTN will have special Advent programming all of this weekend on EWTN Radio. Tomorrow night, 5 Eastern on EWTN Radio. EWTN Radio Christmas card, wonderful music of the season, plus personal greetings from the EWTN Radio family. So I hope that you get a chance to tune into that. That's tomorrow night, 5 Eastern time on EWTN Radio. All right, we got jam-packed phone lines here as we talk about And You Visited Me. We're heeding Jesus' words in Matthew chapter 25 to take care of the corporal needs of others, come out of ourselves a little bit, maybe out of our comfort zone. And we're going to find out what your experience has been, starting with Mary Lee in Sioux City, Iowa, listening on Siouxland Catholic Radio and a first-time caller. Mary Lee, did I get your name pronounced right?
Yes, you did, Jerry. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Sure. So tell us about it.
Well, what did we... last year, with our adult children, instead of, trying to figure out how to exchange gifts with the adult kids, I suggested that we pick an organization, and it's called the Warming Shelter in Sioux City, and it provides services to homeless, during the cold, bitter months from November through April, and they're trying to extend that year-round. So we decided to get a list of all the different things, that you could donate, supplies and things like that. And then I decided to get gift cards to McDonald's because, I didn't want to do cash, to the individuals, but I thought, I could, do a gift card, and have that as part of what we gave. So I used that opportunity with my 6-year-old grandson, and, we were putting the gift cards together in a little bag with a candy cane and Hershey Kisses, and then we talked about not everybody is as blessed as we are to, have a, home and, everything that we need, food, clothing, and all that. And so I decided that I wanted to kind of carry that through and not just at Advent, but so I try to keep gift cards in my car, for McDonald's in an envelope. Then I have phone numbers for local resources because it's very difficult, when you see somebody that's homeless, to just walk by or drive by. But I have these envelopes and I list them for Siouxland so that I can, just give that, to the individual. And there's usually, McDonald's somewhere, and then I feel like I can at least give a meal. And I just have found that, to be inspiring because, you're just not looking the other way, because I,
Sure.
have felt a lot of guilt. And then the other thing that I do in our parish is we bring communion, my sister and I, to the Homebound residents in our local community, nursing homes. And it just is, I get more, bringing Jesus to them because they're not able to attend Mass has just been so fulfilling. So I try to do little things with great kindness.
Wow, Mary Lee, that is absolutely beautiful. The lessons you are teaching, you have taught your entire family, and now the next generation in your family, the grandchildren, as you mentioned as well. And I'm just thinking, as we discuss a topic like this, I can't imagine what it must be like to be living on the street, especially this time of year, where it's obviously
Right.
the weather is really, really against against people in a kind of a vicious way sometimes. I can't imagine, not having all that I need. And I feel so blessed. And like you, I feel convicted because I know that there are those people who don't have what we have. And God wants them to be taken care of, and you have found many, many ways to
Right.
do that. What are you seeing? What are your kids and your grandchild? What do they say about this? Do they really get enthusiastic and get excited behind the idea?
Yeah, I think, my grandson last year, he just really, loved doing that. And I would want my family to, see Christ working through me, and that sometimes, I think, we can look out and go, well, I can't, I'm not able to do something, quote unquote large, but we can all do little things, and we are all called, I believe, by Christ to find ways to serve. And sometimes that's just very small ways behind the scenes, and not everybody sees that, or sometimes it's in, larger type situations. So I want my family to see, Christ working through me, and they have shared that. And, I'm just very, very grateful for my Catholic faith. I'm a convert, and I've been very, very blessed. Had a difficult childhood, and prayed, that God would send somebody into my life, and I've been very blessed. Been married 36 years, and I'm beyond grateful to our Lord.
Wow. You have a lot to be grateful for. Thank you. Welcome home, however long that's been, and praise God for your years, your decades of marriage. And you, out of that gratitude that you have to God, I'm sure is where the source of these acts of kindness flow from in your life, Mary Lee. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for getting us started here on this topic. Praying that you and yours have a continued blessed Advent and a wonderful Christmas season. And I know that others less fortunate are going to be much better off because of what all you and your family are doing. So thank you, Mary Lee, for joining us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Appreciate that so much. Talking about, and you visited me. What do you do, your family, your friends, your loved ones, you yourself, to attend to the needs of those less fortunate, maybe in prison, those who are sick, those who are naked and need clothing? We're going to talk to Barbara next in Warroad, Minnesota, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Barbara. Welcome to Take Two.
Thanks, Jerry. Happy Advent.
Same to you.
I wanted to share, similar to Mary Lee, my husband has a very large family, 6 brothers and sisters, and many years ago we decided we didn't like buying gifts for each other anymore. It was kind of, nobody needed anything anyway, and we wanted to do something better. So what we've ended up doing is playing a game as a family. We gather, in fact, we're gathering tomorrow, and the family each person that wants to play this game brings $20, and whoever wins the game, we have a lot of fun playing the game, actually, but then whoever wins the game chooses a charity to donate that money to. So we write a letter from the family, and all of us sign it, and now our children have their own children. Our children are married, and they're joining in the game, so the group is getting larger, and our grandchildren are watching all this, and I'm sure it's making an impression on them, too.
Oh, yeah. That is really cool. I love that idea. And I can totally relate, Barbara, to what you said about you all just kind of did an inventory and said, there's nothing I really want or need. I remember... we don't do it so much anymore. My sister passed away a couple years ago, but we would typically gather at her house with her husband and their 2 boys up in the Seattle area. And when our mom was still living, it was just such a big deal for everybody to, give gifts to each other. And we'd always say, well, what do you need? What do you want or need? And when I was asked that question, I just simply couldn't come up with anything because I thought, there's really nothing that I want or nothing that I need. And I love the way you and your family have turned this into now, you're all receiving graces by doing what you're doing, but you're providing for the needs of others. And so I just think that's absolutely beautiful. How do you go about picking the charities? Did you say the winner gets to be the one to select that?
Well, each person chooses a charity before the game and tells everyone what it is and what it's all about. And then the winner of the game gets the money, so they get to write a check to the charity. So we've donated to food banks and different missions and St. Gianna's Maternity Home in North Dakota, many, many places.
Wow. Well, they're all the beneficiaries of that. And I'm a firm believer, Barbara, as I have said many times as I host Catholic radio pledge drives around the country, God can multiply our gifts. We just have to give what we can, and God will just add to that somehow, some way. And I'm sure you all have to believe and trust that, the generosity that you're showing is going to be met by probably even more generosity from God. He's got a way of stretching our gifts that we give to charities a lot further than we possibly could. So you're doing a lot of great good, Barbara. Barbara. Thank you so much for that. And again, a blessed Advent and a Merry Christmas to you coming up here. Can't believe in only just 12 days. Thank you, Barbara.
You.
Yeah, God bless you. Thanks for being a part of the program. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. My thanks to Rich Jesse, the producer of the show. Jeff Burson is on social media today, so you can make your comments on Facebook or Twitter. The live video streams there, you can comment there. And Ryan Penny is screening your calls. And when you call right now, 833-288-3986, Ryan's voice is the one you will hear first, and he'll get your call information from you and put you in the queue, because we got an open phone line there as we talk about tending to the needs of those who are less fortunate than us, those who have great needs, whether it be food, clothing, shelter, those who are in prison. 833-288-3986. Continuing along to Manassas, Virginia, and Elaine is listening on Sirius XM 130, also a first-time caller. Hi, Elaine. Happy Advent to you. Hi, Elaine.
Can
Welcome.
you hear me?
Yep, I can now.
Oh, you can? Okay, good. Yes, hi. I am new to EWTN Radio. I've been listening maybe for the past couple of months, and it has changed my life. I can't thank all of you who host these programs enough for what you've done for me spiritually. It's an amazing ministry that you all do. So thank you for that. But what I wanted to share, a few things. So I work in our local food pantry at our church, All Saints Catholic Church in Manassas. And I've been there for a couple of years. And it wasn't until earlier this year, maybe spring/early summer, when it impacted me what we do for people. When one of our clients came in, she had been abandoned by her husband, so I understand. And she had two small children, a little teeny toddler and a baby, an infant. And she just said, just give me food for my children, just feed my kids. And she would, when we give her the food, she would rebag it or rearrange it, and she would pray over it and just, be so reverent and thankful for the food. And that just, spoke volumes to me, that someone was so incredibly thankful for the amount of food that we gave her so she could feed her children who were in need. And that was a beautiful thing to witness, to see that. So I enjoy that work. It is, I highly recommend anybody getting involved with their local food pantry. It is just, it's a beautiful thing. And I really enjoy it. And so that's one of the things that I do. And one of the other things did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, please continue.
Okay. And another thing that I do, and I've been doing this for maybe a couple of years, I think pushing 2 years now as well, is I support the Poor Clares of Alexandria, Virginia, and I have some friends who have sisters in there, and I'm just amazed at, these people, these cloistered nuns, they are totally and completely supported on donations. And so I started with them, and they're cloistered, and they don't reach out. They will respond when you reach out. So I look forward every month to getting a letter from them. They write me a little letter and thank me for the donation. And just, they tell me what's going on with them. It's very short and sweet, and they're always praying for us. And I feel their prayers. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And I've been able to, I doubled their offering this year, and God has just blessed me abundantly. And I don't do it because of that. I do it because I want to help them, because I admire their call to just this very simple, poor life. And they love what they do. They're happy and they're joyful, and it's really wonderful. And I also support a young man who's in a friary, or I guess he's a postulant. I think that's what they call men going into the friary. His parents are friends of mine. His father and I became Catholic together back in 1997. And he's one of 7 children, and he's a good young man, a good friend, and I've been supporting him. And again, they are 100% operating on donations, and so I do that, and I love doing that, and I feel blessed to be able to do that. The last thing I do, and I would just encourage people to reach out when someone is in need, is about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, I found out that our beloved goddaughter and her entire family of 6 children had been abused all of their lives. His parents were dear friends of ours. They're godparents to our son, one of our sons. And we took them in. We took 2 of them in because they had moved out of the house and were living with a sister. And, it's too much to go into detail, but these 2 girls are now thriving. They are going to college, and, we're basically raising them. And just encourage people to reach out and answer the call to Jesus when you find someone in need.
Wow, Elaine, if you can hold on just for a minute, there's so much I could say about all that you've shared. Absolutely inspiring, amazing stuff. This is Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Short little pause, get back to Elaine and more of your calls when we continue.
Raymond Arroyo.
We need EWTN Radio for the reason that Mother Angelica founded this enterprise. She saw this as a holistic approach, reaching the whole person, bringing them truth and life.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio. This is Mike and Alicia Hernan with the Messy Family Minute. It's vitally important for children to feel individually loved and known by their parents. Especially in a big family like ours, this can be very challenging. But no matter how many kids you have an obligation to work on your relationship with each individual child. Relationships are built with the material of time, and we need to give our time to our children in a very intentional way.
We do something with our kids that we call special time. Special time is spending time with one child doing something that they like to do. It can be very simple, like going to a park, the library, or going on a hike. Or you could go out for ice cream, a movie, or have some other fun experience.
It's really not important what you do. What is important is that you are focused on getting to know that individual child and sending them the message that they are important, they are loved, and they are known by you. This lays the foundation for their relationship with God.
For more inspiration and practical advice, visit us at messyfamilyminute.org.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
The devil will always do his best to tempt you into sin until you get to that place where you love sin. That's what he wants. He wants you down there with him. And not because he loves you, he hates you. When you do what the enemy tempts you to do, he does it out of pure hatred.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Gloria Purvis.
And I'm Tom Price. On the next Morning Glory, it may be legal, but is it right?
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie.
Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie is your program, and you are making it a great one today. We're talking with Elaine in Manassas, Virginia on Sirius XM 130 and a first-time caller about helping out the poor, the underserved, the marginalized, those in need, especially this time of year. But actually, it's something we should be doing really year-round to the best of our ability. And Elaine, thank you so much for all that you shared. First of all, welcome to the EWTN radio listening family and the Take 2 listening family. You're a first-time caller today, but never again will you be. So we hope that you will certainly give our show a call again at some point in the future. And the story you told about the lady who just wanted food for her kids, and then before she left, so many people, God bless them, they just maybe in a hurry to get the food on the table to their kids or whatever, but she took that time and she prayed over that, and that was it just so much reminded me of John chapter 6, where Jesus multiplies the loaves and the fishes. And I know in one of those multiplication accounts, Jesus says to his disciples, what do we have? How much food do we have? And I think in every one of them, they preface their statement by saying all we have is, and then they talk about the fish and the loaves and so forth. All we have. Well, all we have is enough for Jesus. If we give Jesus all that we have, we look at what he can do as well. And I love the fact that you support the Poor Clares. I know a community of Poor Clare sisters in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and if I'm correct, Elaine, they don't ask for food. They are just dependent on the goodwill of people who know them and bring them food. But if I'm right on this, and I may be wrong, but I know the men's community did this in Fort Wayne. They would only keep, I think, about 3 days worth of food in the pantry or the refrigerator, and anything else that was donated, they would turn around and donate that to the poor, just living completely at the mercy and trusting in God to provide for them. So anything else you want to add, Elaine? It sounds like you are involved in some really, really fantastic stuff for the Lord.
I would just encourage people to humble themselves and reach out, and don't be afraid to offer your help when someone is in need. My husband didn't really want to get involved with the goddaughter thing, and I looked at him and I said, but what would Jesus do? Would he want us to help someone who doesn't have a home, who doesn't have any place to go, my goddaughter and her sister were literally looking at homeless shelters. And I thought, well, two of our older boys are in college and in the military, and we had the room, and, they went to school with my two younger children. And so, it's just been an amazing, and my husband conceded, and he is, we've all grown as a family, with our charity, and it's just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. So I would just encourage people to get involved where they can, and you will be amazed at how it's changed our lives. I'm 100% different than I was 2 years ago, and I believe it's because of Jesus.
That's right. Charity begets charity, and our hearts, Jesus, I think Jesus calls us to expand our hearts, to grow in charity. It's a virtue. It's one of the theological virtues. And we should ask God to expand our hearts and the charity in our hearts, because then it's just naturally going to flow out to others, especially those in need. Elaine, thank you. God bless you for the call. And hopefully you too will have a continued blessed Advent and a very Merry Christmas. If we don't hear from you before then, here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. On this topic today, we were talking about helping out those in need. And Carol Tall Carol in Wisconsin, and her husband Jim. Carol emailed, "Hi Jerry, good topic. When I trained and worked as a chaplain, I had to focus on bringing grace and being positive, also to witness what they were going through. To do this, you have to be spiritually fit and open to putting ego on the back burner. You always ask first, may I help you? Listen to them, to what they need. You give the gift of listening, caring, and some intimacy." She says, "I worked in ICU. They were doing surgery right in the room. I was able to be outside the door praying." She says, "Be a pencil in God's hand and ask the Holy Spirit what to write and do. Using a prayer book, especially at times like death, helps model suffering." She says, "I can't, but God can." And she closes by saying, "Have faith, not fear, in trying to help. Love is a verb." Best in love from Tall Carol and Jim in Burlington, Wisconsin. Thank you both so very, very much. And now back to your phone calls on Take Two. We go to Jerry in, Jerry, you're going to have to help me. Is it Opelousas, Louisiana? Did I get close on that one?
That's very close. It's Opelousas, Louisiana.
Opelousas. Okay, great. Listening on Christ Our King Radio. First time caller too. Hi, Jerry. Glad to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. I am a Eucharistic minister for a mental health hospital locally, and it's been very rewarding. I'm the only one who visits the hospital on Sunday, and so I pray with everyone that's there. And it doesn't matter what faith or whatever. And then there's some people there that they tell me they're atheists and they don't care to pray, and so they sit off to the side, and I respect that. And I prayed with Jewish people and people just of every denomination, or just people who tell me they believe in God but they have no denomination. And A lot of times this time of the year, because I've been doing it for several years, they often tell me they have nothing to give. And a lot of times I remind them of St. Teresa's words that the smile is the first act of charity, and that it's something that they will always have is a smile that they can give. And, how encouraging the smiles are and things like that. So that's what I give.
Wow. Thank you, Jerry, for doing that. Especially, you might have heard me mention I'm a chaplain assistant and extraordinary minister of Holy Communion at a regular hospital. You said a mental hospital. So thank you so much for doing that. And I can relate so much to what you're saying because actually I typically get a list of only Catholic patients. They have interfaith, they have Jewish, they have other people who go and visit them. But I'm sure you've experienced this. It's like when you knock on that door, you absolutely do not know what you're going to experience. And sometimes I think, well, what if they reject me, or what if they reject God, or they don't want prayer, or they don't want, we can't worry about those things, because we are being Christ to them. And I sometimes think just the fact that someone visits them, even if someone has a heart that is somewhat closed to God or to faith or religion or whatever, that visit itself, in and of itself, Jerry, I think you could leave and that person could then be pondering that and praying that, and God could use that encounter to really enter that person's heart in a beautiful way. What do you think about that?
I do feel that sometimes that just and a lot of times I see them encouraging others as I'm fixing to leave out the room, or, extending a smile or something to someone else, where they learn to see, someone else instead of, because a lot of times they're very self-absorbed when I get there, and then they begin to realize that they do have something to give. I remind them, a phone call to someone can cheer someone else's day up. And then, so they start thinking of ways that they can give, because the hospital that I visit is for the elderly with mental health. And so a lot of times they're at the end, they feel like they're at the end of the road. They have nothing more they can give. And so I remind them of those little things that they can give.
Well, and you mentioned, I think you said, Jerry, you're the only volunteer person who goes there on Sundays. Is that because there aren't that many people to see, or is it just, is this something, where I'm going with this is I really try and encourage anyone who has the physical and other abilities to get involved in a ministry like this to do so. A lot of people think it's outside their comfort zone, but what would you say to all those who are listening right now who have not yet gotten involved in some sort of a prison ministry or hospital ministry or food pantry or what have you, to take that step, Jerry, and to just go ahead and get involved, and don't worry about whether you have the qualifications or the abilities. God can provide for that. What do you say to those people?
Right. I would tell them that, usually I pray for 10 or 15 minutes before the Blessed Sacrament before I go, and I always realize that it's through His strength, because there are, because I've had one patient that challenged me, and I'm so grateful that y'all have so many apologetics things on there, and so I was able to calmly, give him an apologetical, I guess is what you call it, answer to a question that he had. And they often throw me questions that I wouldn't be able to answer. But I feel that because I pray, and then I know that as soon as I leave, I spend an hour in the chapel. I've scheduled my holy hour to be that hour after I leave the hospital. And I always find that He's always given me a voice that I would not have had before. Like he gives me strength. And people ask me, how can I keep going? And I said, it's not me. I said, I'm, an object that's set in motion will keep going. That it's Him that propels me. It's God that propels me. It's no one else.
Wow. Well, yeah, you're not only providing the human element, but like you said, you're soaking yourself in prayer before the Blessed Sacrament, before and a holy hour after. I'll tell you what, that is an absolutely winning recipe or combination there, Jerry, for God to work powerfully through you. So thank you so much for calling from Opelousas, Louisiana, again, listening on Christ Our King Radio. You will never again be a first-time caller, Jerry, so we hope that we hear from you in a future broadcast here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher. Debbie is off today, and we're talking about And You Visited Me, Matthew chapter 25. Jesus said, when we visit someone in prison, when we clothe the naked, when we feed the hungry, when we give water to the thirsty and so forth, we are doing that to him. So we're asking you today, what kinds of ministries of this sort are you involved in, either individually, maybe as a family? How have you experienced great blessings because of this, and how has God maybe worked in the lives of those to whom you've ministered? 833-288-3986. And Don, hold on in Buffalo. You're going to be right after Father Deacon Lawrence in Dearborn, Michigan, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Father Deacon Lawrence. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jerry?
Doing well. Nice to have you on the show again. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Several years ago, and the radio program aired on EWTN and Ave Maria Radio, Light of the East. Father Thomas Loya used to get letters from a man who was in the Milan Federal Correction Institute in Milan, Michigan. And I don't live that far from there, so I decided to try to get hold of Father Thomas and see if I could get in to see the prisoner there. And I was successful, and I saw him about 4 or 5 times while he's in, and I've been in touch with him since he's gotten out. We share Christmas cards and stuff, and I'd have never thought I'd been able to do something like that, but, because of Father Loya, his show was aired, I guess, so prisoners could listen to in the Correction Institute. He was able to do that, so I was able to get hold of him and stay in touch with the man who was in there.
Wow. Praise God for that, Father Deacon Lawrence. Thank you for sharing that. And, I want to, as you're talking about this prisoner, it just reminds me, I want to make a real heartfelt appeal to those who listen to EWTN Radio and your local affiliate. Please, please support them financially, because I have personally had a very good friend falsely accused of something heinous, had to spend 7 years in prison, an innocent man, and he relies so heavily on the local Catholic radio station where he was, and I know so many other prisoners do. We sometimes look down upon men and women who are in prison. Oh, they're getting what they deserve. Oh, they're degenerates. Oh, they're this and that. They're so marginalized. No, these are human beings, and I'd like you to speak to that for a second, Father Deacon Lawrence. How these are people who just need God's grace and love just like the rest of us, and we can be instruments of that.
That's right. We're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God. There may be plenty of people. In fact, I was just reading in the Detroit paper, there's somebody in prison in Michigan who's been in for 4 years, and he hasn't been convicted of anything. It's just going through the loops of getting his case to go to trial. It's really sad what can happen to some people. And I know years ago, our Archbishop, probably about 10 years ago, our Archbishop passed away, and I took the Bishop Emeritus of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Lansing to the funeral with me in Pittsburgh. And on the way back, we drove by the Milan Federal Correction Institute, and he told me he would, bring people, to Christ and brought them into the Catholic Church when he would visit there. I mean, he told me he was more busy as a retired bishop than he was as a working bishop. So.
Wow. Well, thank God for that. And I have known not a lot of prisoners, but like I said, I had this good friend of mine, and actually through him, I met his first cellmate. We became pen pals, and I met a number of the other men as well. I visited my good friend in prison a number of times and just got acquainted with, especially via not email, but mail, with some of these other men. And I can just say, these are fine men. They wanted to do right. They wanted to know God. They wanted to serve God. and love him, and they served each other and just had this joy even in a prison setting. I mean, it sometimes boggles your mind that could be possible, but it really, really is. And so thank you, Father Deacon Lawrence, for that call. Appreciate that. We got several more that I'm going to try to get to here before we wrap up today's broadcast. Final show of the week, live show of the week, here on this Advent Friday, heading for the third Sunday of Advent. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. And I just want to also realize I'm encouraging you to come out of yourself, come out of your comfort zone, and help those in need. I also want to take a moment here to encourage you to give a gift that represents the true meaning of Christmas to those you love this year. We've heard of some great suggestions here on the program today. One family, they don't even buy each other gifts. They just play this game. It's a $20 entry fee, and whoever wins takes all the money and gives it to their charity of choice. But if you're going to be giving gifts, give whatever you want. Give, I laugh at these new car commercials. I mean, how many people are giving cars for Christmas? Not me. But anyway, there's a lot of things you could choose, and give people certainly what they want and what they need, but also look at their soul. Look at the souls of those you love, and give the gift that represents the true meaning of Christmas from the EWTN religious catalog. And right now, here's a holy reminder. They have the Holy Family with an ornate cross. It's a nativity statue that features a beautifully detailed three-dimensional figure of the Holy Family positioned in front of a large golden cross with a jeweled fixture. That's one of the featured items at EWTNRC.com. And orders over $75, you're going to get free shipping at checkout, I should say. So every purchase made at EWTNRC.com directly supports EWTN and Mother Angelica's mission. So keep that in mind when you're doing your Christmas shopping, EWTNRC.com. Thanks again to Father Deacon Lawrence, and we're going to Buffalo, New York next. And Don is listening to Take Two on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Don. Thanks for your patience as well. You hung in there for a while.
Hi, Jerry. And just a quick correction. It's not just Buffalo. It's beautiful Buffalo.
Beautiful Buffalo. Okay, good.
I miss Mother Angelica, listening to her. And I got a lot out of what the lady called just before Father did. Her name was Jerry also. And I was very impressed by something that rings true to me, is that she takes care of, she'll pray with the Jew, and she'll pray with an atheist if they would so desire. And she's doing quite a thing. My story goes back to when I was listening to you several calls back as you're doing intro to call in about how things can affect, or ministries that you can do to help people. And this is something that God pulled out of left field on me about 7 years ago. God woke my wife up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And this happens to her periodically. It never happens to me. But God woke my wife up and told her that we have to go to St. Simon's Episcopal Church in South Buffalo. Now, that's okay. But she woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning and says, this is what we have to do. I don't, number one, know why God wouldn't wait till 8 in the morning to give her that message, but he didn't.
Right.
So we actually went that particular evening. It was a Wednesday, and they had healing services. They do healing services every Wednesday there, and we went. We knew some people, and we started to go there because we were told to go there. And this events that happened is she is super involved in that church in doing things, not in the church building, but I'll explain in a bit. I became the organist there and the dishwasher, so I do those two things and all the technical stuff. And about 4 years ago, the group in the church decided we have to buy a building that's next to us. It was an old decrepit bar, a 7,000 square foot bar on a fair poor street in Buffalo called Seneca Street. And we bought this bar and got a grant to refurbish everything in it, and we call it the Genesis Center. The Genesis Center is just what you were talking about. We're there for food pantry, soup kitchen, support for people. If people want to come in and eat and just shoot the baloney with other people, they're all in a safe place, and they all know that they're in a safe place when they're in the Genesis Center, and that we're not going to be pushing anything on them, but we're there to listen. We do have, and it's known that we've got a small chapel there, that if people care to pray or ask for prayers or whatever, they know that all is available to them. And my wife and I spend 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week there. And I was talking to our priest, Twyla Smith, it was about last week. She was trying to help us through, like you are doing, help us through Advent, get your mind focused on what this season truly is. And she was asking how you feel about, are you uplifted during this time? Are you down? And I don't like this time of year. It hurts me, the commercialism, I think, and it hurts me that families don't have a clue and they teach their kids things that don't seem right. But I told Mother Twyla, our priest, I says, when I leave church, I love playing the organ, I love the music, I love the people, and she's a fantastic preacher, and I enjoy her sermons. But I says, when I really feel good is when I'm beat to the bone after working in this Genesis Center building, working with people all day long. It is the most uplifting thing. And you're hearing sad stories all day long, but they sit and talk. They'll sit in my office and talk. We eat dinner. We have a good time there. And that, I'll tell you something, people that are not or haven't tried working in a situation like that, gosh, you got to go give it a try, because it is an absolute, it's fun, it's rewarding, but I'm positive, and I'm so positive of this. We don't have a very large church in St. Simon's. I'm positive that Jesus would not be spending his days in there. He would be out on that street where we are serving all these people. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys.
Well, Don, thank you for sharing all that. And it sounds like you and your wife both are very, very attentive to the call of the Lord on your lives to be involved in these types of ministries. And I did get a kick out of you sharing with me that, God woke up your wife at 5 a.m, and then she in turn woke you up to share what God had put the prompted on her heart. I'm reminded of the call of Samuel. I think it's 1 Samuel chapter 3, where the young boy hears the call of the Lord, and he goes to Eli, and he says, Eli, you called me. And Eli says, no, I didn't. Go back to sleep. And this happens 3 times, of course, as we know from that Bible account. And finally, Eli says, "Oh, I know what it is. If you get this call again, it's the call from the Lord." But I was chuckling at that because I get so many show topic ideas in the middle of the night as well. I will send myself emails. One time, I had 38 emails for myself when I woke up in the morning. Now, that could be a problem that only a psychologist could take care of. But anyway, Don, thank you. Any last comment? We got about 30 seconds if you want to, close up your comments with anything else.
Last comment is those emails you send yourself, they do have medicine for that you can take, and that'll slow your mind down a little bit. Have a good day. Have a great Advent.
You too, Don, in beautiful Buffalo. Thank you so much for the call on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. What a great conversation today. You guys, as Debbie and I always say, this is your show. You make it what it is. This was another home run that you knocked out of the park. James in Hillsdale, Michigan, Colleen in Spokane. I'm so sorry. If I bring either one of you on the show, you'd have to get your comments out in about 15 to 20 seconds. I just can't do that to you. But please, we'll cover this topic again sometime. And in the meantime, our email address, we'd love to hear what you were going to share on the air via email. And that is take2@EWTN.com. Take2@EWTN.com. That is it for this week of broadcasts. There's going to be an encore, actually. There's an encore at midnight Eastern time of every one of our shows here at Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And so thank you to the affiliates. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. Thanks again to Rich, Jeff, and Ryan, and all the good folks at EWTN, the show team. Next week, on Monday, we have our Urgent Prayer Intention Show. 911, God, I need you now. So if you've got an urgent prayer intention, call in on Monday. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about St. Teresa of Calcutta's Express Novena, how when she didn't have 9 days to do a novena, she did 9 memoraries. We're going to talk about that. On Wednesday, how do you handle estrangements and other holiday heartaches? Thursday, enjoying the joy. Are you able to slow down enough to enjoy Christmas? And on Friday, what do you believe were the most significant things that happened in this year? That's all coming up next week. Thank you. God bless you. Have a beautiful Advent third Sunday.